back again. Welcome. It's Backyard Conversations. I'm here as always
Yeah,
with Dapo, the pencil pusher. How you doing, brother?
good, good. Happy to be
So
back.
it's good to be back. It's good to be back. Yes, I was gonna say it's been an interesting past week and a half for tech, sports, politics. So I think we should start with something just more much calmer, like tech, especially with Samsung's event wrapping up last week. They had their conference. I think it was in France. I forget where it was, but I saw some of it. Were you able to catch any of it?
I didn't watch it live. I saw like a highlight reel after the event had happened. Although I had seen like images of some of the stuff they were about to announce prior as leaks.
Yeah, I honestly didn't catch any leaks. So when I tuned in during the live stream, I was intrigued by seeing some of the concepts and some of the ideations, and it kind of reminded me of a certain WWDC that happened earlier this year. And I thought maybe you know what, maybe it might just be just recency bias because I just seen Dub Dub, and maybe I'm just conflicting. And so I decided to just check the internet after the fact, like check, Twitter lists that I have for tech. And people already made mock ups of the event, comparing it with Apple's product and product launches, and borderline saying it was a
Oh,
copy pasta.
wait, you mean the way the event was staged?
Not necessarily, but some of the language and some of the product direction. Say, for example, the watch, the Galaxy Watch Ultra, which is kind of like a copy pasta of the Apple Watch Ultra in some way, and
Oh
even
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah, yeah.
the attention to detail in terms of like health. Sure, there's no monopoly on health, but some of the features in Apple Health that they announced, like yeah, you can now do this, and it resurfaced at the Samsung event. So I thought that was inspired. What did you think?
Well, I mean, generally there was just. I think this is one of the it's a step back or a low point for Samsung because earlier in Samsung's smartphone and this consumer electronics journey, they used to get accused of copying Apple a lot. In hindsight, it doesn't seem as bad as it was blown out to be, but now some of the stuff they've done just makes it look even worse. So the watch having the bright orange band with the same type of holes in the side, and then them putting they've always had their watches have always had the circular thing, and then they now put theirs in like a bit more of a square casing around the already circular bezel. They claim that it's supposed to house a bigger battery. They put the orange accents. They called it Ultra, even though Samsung used the Ultra name first. But still, like when they just put the two of them side by side, it's obvious that somebody copied somebody. Even though there's ways they could have done it. They could have used a different color band. They could have used different color accents. I don't know if there's something about wearable tech that demands it being orange or having orange accents or whatever. I don't know, but it was just very glaring. Then the earbuds as well. Um, Funny enough, the Galaxy Buds were my favorite earbuds because of a lot of the like external stuff. It didn't have a stem. I think the stems are ridiculous. It didn't. It came in black, which I feel is more discreet. Um, it had pretty good battery life, and now it has a stem. It's white. In fact, the shape is almost identical to the Apple AirPods, and it's not like you get any improvement in battery life. In fact, the battery life has even deteriorated since when they released the Buds Plus. So it's just very disappointing to see all that copy and paste nonsense behavior.
I hear you, and I think for one, I acknowledge everything you said, especially with the colors. Like even the orange doesn't look like good orange. It's almost like faded orange compared to the the Watch Ultra Orange, and I don't personally have any beef with stems, especially now that manufacturers have started incorporating features into stems. Say, for example, like on the new AirPods Pro, I think you can toggle volume with the stem as well as like do your ANC, turn on your active noise cancellation and turn it off with the stem. So as long as it's not just something that's just there for random aesthetic reasons and it's not functional, I don't mind the stems. I
No,
don't
no,
know if the
it
pods,
wasn't always there for random aesthetic reasons. It was there so that it could direct the mic a bit closer to your
also
mouth.
the mic,
And I'll admit,
yes.
the Galaxy Buds, at least the ones that I do have, the con of it is that the mics are not good, or the mics are not as good as maybe other wireless earbuds. But still, I mean, even Apple via Beats are making earbuds without the stems, and I don't know what the mic quality is like, but Jabra is making them, Sony is making them, so it's possible to make good quality earbuds without stems. For it to make the stem, it's obvious that you're copying, and it's not just. I mean, there are many other earbuds with stems, but these ones look particularly like the AirPods, and it's a shameful copy.
Yeah. Did you also see the ring, the Ura ring? It's not Ura, it's Galaxy Ring, but
This
people
is
are
the
like,
Galaxy
Ura,
Ring, but
Ura did it first. Yeah. And now Ura's name, like, obviously, they're not a big tech company. So people don't talk about them the same way they will talk about like a Pixel or Samsung or an Apple product. But they
yeah.
must be looking at this ring thinking, well, Samsung is copying us now. I guess eventually we expect Apple to copy us as well.
So like okay, for something like a ring, right, or a health tracking ring, the form factor is so simple that I expect everybody's own to look alike. So you can't really say, oh, I mean, you can say yes, somebody has entered the product line first, um, but the physical look of the product itself, everybody can pretty much just do the same thing, copy and paste, and then the only differentiator will be features. You know, I don't expect there to be any physical appearance differentiation. It's such a small and simple, product, in the physical shape and dimensions and form factor. So I'm fine with what it looks like. It looks neat. The only issue is that it only works for Samsung. I mean, it only syncs with Samsung devices. So I guess Samsung too is trying to be like Apple in doing the whole exclusive ecosystem type thing. They're within their right to. I guess they have their customers.
You're right in that they do have their customers. And yeah, so you talked about how the ring, what would make it different is um maybe like the features and also like the ecosystem, and like we talked about like how things are going to work seamlessly, and the already existing features. If you think about the health app on iOS, for example, how it integrates with like your Fitness Plus, your Apple Watch, and all these things.
Hmm.
Like if a ring comes out, it's just gonna like slide right into an already mature ecosystem, and just be just one more thing. I really wouldn't mind a ring. Honestly, I prefer analog watches to the Apple Watch, but because of how well it tracks literally everything I do in terms of like fitness and sleep, it's one of those things now that I just kind of I don't have to wear it, but I always just have it on. Um, let's take a bit of a shift or a detour now. Let's talk about football because I watched some Copa games. I watched some of the Euros, and I gotta say, some of the teams that I was rooting for didn't exactly do too well. I don't know if that was the case for you. Maybe you weren't able to watch the games. Were you rooting for anybody in particular? And do you like how, maybe not like how it panned out, but you saw how it panned out?
I think I watched more of the Euro games and the Copa games. Even though I didn't watch as many of either of them, but for the Euros, I typically like to just root for Netherlands because back when like I was a teenager, I used to love the Netherlands national team. Patrick Kluivert, Clarence Seedorf, Edgar Davids, those guys, like that team was awesome. So I just love, and then they had like a bright orange jersey. So I was like, what's not to love? They've got, I mean, it's the home of Amsterdam, this cool city. They've got bright orange jersey. They've got all these cool players, you know. So I used to like that team a lot. And then every time I see the national team of Netherlands play, I always like support them. They got to semi-finals, but I'm not even too familiar with the current lineup. So I was just like rooting for them from a distance, as it were. England surprised me because when they started the tournament, it was like they were very shaky, and then they got to the finals, and I'm like, oh wow, you guys did it. But the better team won. I watched the finals live. The better team won. I mean, it was there was no like doubt that Spain played better, and Spain won all their games throughout the tournament. So I mean, England would have only been lucky if they had won it.
I agree entirely with that sentiment because I was kind of rooting for England as one of the teams I was rooting for because I'm not European, so there's no like rule or law that says that I have to root for just one team. And so,
Yep.
with a bit of my bias, I was rooting for mostly teams with players I actually already like in real life, watching their club football, and also brothers, right? You know, isn't that Issa Rae meme where she's like, "I'm supporting everybody black," right? So,
Yeah, yeah.
um, so if you look at the Dutch team, they have a good amount of brothers, right? You
Yep,
know, from
yep,
Memphis Depay, Dumfries, even it's literally all their star players, right? Xavier Simons, Virgil van Dijk, and um, so they have a good amount of like African history in the squad. Let's not even talk about the French squad, which is like all just brothers. Um,
yep.
except for Antoine, who happens to be one of my favorite players, like on the entire planet. I love watching Griezmann play. Wherever he goes, I just like watching his football. He's someone I was actually surprised didn't start the semifinal because I feel like even though it was a difficult game for Spain, with Griezmann on the pitch, France had made it even more difficult, especially if they had played like maybe Griezmann centrally and then maybe put Barcola on the wing and maybe put Mbappe on the other side. Because if you have those two
Mm-hmm.
running at you, like you're gonna cause a lot of problems. But they brought on Barcola too late. He caused a lot of trouble towards the end, but it just wasn't enough. And I saw that game and I was like, okay, so Mbappe's finally out. That sucks. But then you can't take nothing away from these guys. These are World Cup winners for the most part, right? The team is full of
Yeah,
people who've lifted the World Cup at such a young age,
that's true.
reached the final the following year and barely lost. They went on pens, right? Lost to Argentina, which
Yes.
so this is a team that's like mature, full of superstars. It's like
Stacked.
it starts, so they're like, yeah, it's all good. The English team, on the other hand, see, I've been hyping Jude Bellingham since forever because I watch him play. He reminds me of Zidane.
Yeah, Bellingham is good. Like,
He's
and he knows how
exceptional.
to transition between midfield and the forward very very well.
Agreed
Um,
entirely. Agreed entirely.
Saka is great on the
Oh,
right
Bukayo,
flank.
star
Great,
boy.
great. Great
Yeah,
with the assists. And I don't like this thing they always do when England loses and then these dumbass racist guys just start piling on. And I'm like, if they win
it's always like
and
that.
it's
Yeah,
and if they win and Saka is the one that gives them the win, you won't see any of that. It's only
yeah. You won't see that
whenever
energy. Just a negative
uh,
energy.
it's just crazy. And I think like this, I saw Palmer play for Chelsea during
Yeah,
the club season, and I was like, man, this guy is brilliant. So when he didn't start, I was like, ah. And they played three defenders, so I'm like, are they playing an attacking game? But you're playing an attacking. If you're not playing an attacking game, and you
mm-hmm,
have
mm-hmm.
one centre forward in Kane, and then you bench Palmer and you have three defenders. What are you doing? And then by the time they brought Palmer on, Palmer was even the one that gave them their goal. So like by
Yeah.
the time you brought Palmer on, I think that was like too late. They should have brought him on much earlier. But anyway, they tried. They tried.
Yeah.
I still think the better
They
team
really
won.
did. Oh yeah, I agree. With that sentiment. And it's easy for us to like be here. I don't have any experience in managing footballers. I don't know what Gareth Southgate was thinking, but what I was thinking got them to the finals,
True,
right?
true,
Just
true.
couldn't take them across the line, right?
Yep,
And so,
yep.
sure, he with all the criticism, he started Hurricane. Hurricane didn't really work in Southgate's system throughout the tournament. He's the team captain. I get it, but it didn't work throughout the tournament. And he bagged goals, which is silly to say now because I think he had like three goals in the tournament. And
Yeah,
this new method. they don't give just one person golden boot anymore. Apparently, they gave everybody that scored 3 goals because nobody scored more than
Oh,
three.
more than
So
three. Okay,
even,
okay,
even
okay.
Danny Olmo, who ended up winning the tournament with 3 goals and the most assists, who should have been the outright winner of the Golden Boot. Apparently, they all get to
Yeah.
share now, so everybody gets a nice
Hmm.
shiny boot. So congrats to them. I think Tony and Watkins should have been on the pitch sooner and for longer, right? Surely at the expense of Kane in some cases. I think Iberici should have had more minutes because whenever he came on, he brought a whole new dimension. He and Palmer on the pitch for England brought this whole vibe that used to scare opposition, and they can draw fouls, right? Because they're very hard, unpredictable, right? Yeah,
They're
so that's
pretty
the Euros.
nimble.
Yeah, that was the Euros. Hey, it was fun. It was really fun to watch. And I know if maybe anybody listening, if you play like FC, used to be called FIFA, but in the Ultimate Team mode, there were these things called live cards, where as you're playing with your Ultimate Team, if you get a card from a club like say France, if you get Antoine Griezmann, they put some markers on it, like say if he scores a goal, he gets upgraded from like a 94 to a 95. And if
Oh,
for
nice, nice,
France,
nice.
and that made the game even more interesting. Like if they're watching the game, someone like Cole Palmer, the card came out. It was priced very exorbitantly at like millions of coins. Coins are like the fake currency in
Hmm.
FIFA. But because some of these upgrades were
Yeah.
based on his appearances, the price tanked immediately because people saw he wasn't starting. But then he assisted one
Yeah,
goal. You
yeah,
get two
yeah.
goal contributions for an upgrade. He assisted one goal, like in the game. I forget what game it was. I think it was a game in the quarterfinals. And then that goal he scored in the final was like the second goal contribution. So he went from like a 94 to like a 98. The price went up in the market. Like it's ridiculous. It sounds silly to say right now, but it's just like the economics of you know how kind
FIFA
of like this
Ultimate Team.
ultimate team and also with just like human behavior too. Like you see the stock price where people invest erratically based on what they see at the
Oh,
moment, right?
definitely, definitely,
Um
definitely.
so it was fun to see those behavioral patterns affected in game by real life quote unquote consequences. I thought that was fun.
Performance, yeah.
Let's give Euros a bit of a shout because I feel like I mean sorry Copa because Euros took the spotlight. It was a more popular competition, but USA hosted Copa. They didn't qualify out of their group, arguably because of a silly red card one of their teammates got because it was an easy win and he went and did something. I think he either kicked someone or raised his hand. It was the
Oh,
silliest.
really?
Yeah, it was the silliest red card to get. Then his team were down to 10 men and ended up drawing the game. A game they should have won, which meant they had to win
Against
their
who?
last game.
Panama?
Was it Panama? I forget who it was, but the next thing was Uruguay, which was supposed to be their toughest opposition because Uruguay were also favorites in the competition before they got knocked out by
Hmm.
Colombia. And now
Oh,
Uruguay beat them 1-0, so they just didn't leave the group. In a group that they could have because I feel like if they had left the group, they'd have given other teams way more headache based on the confidence levels, right?
hmm.
But my favorite team in this tournament obviously was Canada. I was watching them play. Canada is the team that I call the almost team right now. Almost being that team that will do everything right except score. So basically they need I think a year and a half together, and they need a
Hmm.
better like two more clinical players, and I think they will start competing at a very high level because Argentina, because when you hear Canada is playing Argentina, you expect 4-0, 5-0. Argentina struggled to beat them 2-0 on the first game, the opening game. And
Mm-hmm.
then they both faced each other in the semi-final. And it was 2-0 again to Argentina, right? And this is a team, I'm talking about Canada right now, like they create chances for days. Sure, it leaves them exposed in the back because they overload the midfield and the attacking positions, makes them vulnerable in defense. However, they create chances, but they don't finish, not clinical. Um, then Messi has won it again, second Copa and his World Cup. Like, if anybody's arguing about goats right now, because everybody wants to argue about
Ah,
goats, like
eh.
he just put full stop and everything. It's
And
done.
the funny thing is, we didn't even mention how Ronaldo was
Cristiano,
acting. Yeah, it was how Cristiano was acting with Portugal during the Euros.
yeah, yeah. I think
Like
you go ahead.
they were comparing him to Homelander and the boys.
There's a thing that I think he doesn't have that he should have a mentor who had drilled it into him at a younger age, which is self awareness, right? You are you are worshipped by your fans. Your teammates look up to you because you're literally one of Portugal's greatest footballer, if not the greatest.
Mm-hmm.
So you should have that leadership where it's like, I've taken 100 free kicks. I've scored two. Calm down. Let the team. You're a team, right? You're a team.
Exactly,
Let someone
exactly.
else play. You know, um, you have to lead, and you don't have to lead from the pitch, right? He's done it before. The last Euros that they won, he led from the sidelines because he was injured, and he had scored in group stages. He had done so much, and he came from the sidelines and he helped, and they won. So it's like, guy, don't always have to take all the set pieces.
Is that ego? Is that ego thing?
Yeah, that self awareness isn't there. Yeah, but Messi on the other hand, like even though he also cried, just like CR7 cried in the tournament, it was because of his foot.
And
And I don't know if you saw his
yeah,
ankle. It
Messi.
was
Yeah,
really hurt.
I didn't see the ankle, but I saw when he tripped and fell and he had to be taken off. And I think his own crying was that he didn't get the opportunity to be in the game. You know,
Yep, yep.
um, I think the Argentinians and I think maybe the Italians as well. They're the ones that I've seen get like emotional, where players would, literally cry, shed tears when
Mm-hmm,
maybe they
mm-hmm.
miss a game or they lose a game or they miss a shot or something.
Yeah,
It's
yep, yep.
crazy seeing that level of emotion with
It's
them.
just, it's deep, 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 deep passion for the sport. You can't even knock
Yep.
that. You can't even knock that. It was nice seeing. I love football a lot, and just watching these players. Um, I think Argentina has a lot of unsung heroes. I used to joke with some of my friends that, especially like in the last World Cup, Di Maria was the star, but nobody talked about him, right?
Mm.
Because he was the one who essentially carried Argentina. A lot of people will say, yeah, but Messi scored. Yeah, he scored pens. Di Maria created all sorts of trouble for the opposition. He was running at them. He's the guy who's like, once you see him, you know something can happen, right? Sure,
Hmm.
it's always been Messi who always had that role, but Messi can always be there 100% of the time. He needs a supporting
Yeah,
cast,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then you talk about Alexis
He's the one drawing all
McAllister.
the attention.
Exactly.
Ah,
I think
yes,
in the midfield,
McAllister
McAllister.
too showed out during the World Cup.
He did. Rodrigo de Paul, right? From Atletico de Madrid. Like this team is full of stars, but all the spotlight is on Messi, right? Which I guess that's what he gets for being a freak of a human playing football because we've seen what he can do with the ball. So everyone's like, yeah, it's got to be him, right? Um,
Yep.
okay, now let's get back to tech quickly because I feel like a lot of stuff we're going to talk about in the next few segments are mostly tech based. You and I saw like an article recently about Apple training their AI without consent on YouTube videos. And I found that really interesting. In looking closer, you realize, oh wow, Apple's probably even late to the party. Some other people have been doing this for a minute.
Yeah, I mean, so what's with all these AI guys, all these their huge data centers, what are they doing?
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
crawling any and everything. I mean, that's pretty much how Google itself started, and what search engine is this. They crawl as much of the web as they can and index it, right? And then give it to you in a searchable, format when you search for something. So the AIs are doing something similar where they're crawling everything they can find on the web, including YouTube videos. And when someone then makes a request to the AI or chats with the AI or speaks to the AI or whatever, um, YouTube becomes one of the things they can reference in creating, a response or whatever. Um, I am curious to know if I think part of the article there was also like some asking Sam Altman, CEO of OpenAI, if they were doing so to create their video creation AI Sora. Um, but in that article, I think what they said Apple was doing was that they were scraping or not necessarily scraping, modeling the captions, like the subtitles, and not the video itself, which is kind of strange. I guess maybe because a large percentage of AI interactions are text based, and if the YouTube stuff is still open and all that, and YouTube doesn't create some sort of blocker against AI training models, then they might eventually just do that. And I think also YouTube needs to protect its creators or the people who post on their platform and give them an opt in or opt out to AI training. Even though Google might want to do it themselves with Gemini, since they have their own AI platform as well.
Yeah, it's kind of a funny world, isn't it? Like when Google was scraping the entire web for its search databases, they didn't take any permission from anyone. And Google now owns YouTube, which is a content creation platform that has intellectual property, arguably from millions of people, that doesn't belong to any individual except the creators. But now everyone is like, yeah, I mean, Google has done something. Google has scraped the web in the past. Maybe there's
But there's a difference because for a search engine is directing you back to the original source of the content.
right.
For AI models are presenting you with new-ish. I'm making air quotes with my hands, but
Mm-hmm.
new info, or new content, or
New
new,
content based off of
exactly
someone else's
based off
already
of.
existing.
So the AI one is more akin to like plagiarism, while the search engine one is like referencing or pointing someone to the original.
Right,
So
fair enough. So yeah, you talked about how Sam Altman was asked about the training for Sora, and I think there was a video that was circulating around Twitter a while back where Joanna Stern from I think CNET was interviewing the CTO of OpenAI,
no, Joanna Stern is WSJ.
the Wall Street Journal. Yeah. Was she ever
Yeah.
at CNET? Maybe I'm associating her with someone else. But anyways,
No, I think
um,
she was at Engadget. I don't
I think
remember.
Gadget. Yeah, it's been a while. There's so many tech blogs. I have a cloud of tech blogs in my head right now. So yeah, long story short, she's interviewing this lady, CTO of OpenAI. Like, did you use YouTube to like train your models? And her response was, I'm not actually sure about that. And so instead of having a
Plausible deniability.
right. So instead of having a concise, response that, people want to hear, you're like not even ready for those kind of conversations right now because hey, people know exactly what you're doing with YouTube. It's a whole different ball game. So yeah, that's the thing. The Apple training subtitle with subtitles and captions. I wonder if there's going to be any legal recourse, but if it's going to happen, Anthropic, Nvidia have done something similar by scraping YouTube, so it's not going to be a one-off. It's going to be back to back to back. And I know we just talked about Twitter. Yes, I refuse to call it X because for some reason it just doesn't sit well with me. And
It's still Twitter to me. It's still Twitter to
yeah,
me.
once a Twitter, always a Twitter. You heard about them experimenting with a downvotes button.
I just saw that today. I know they had tried to do it before.
Yeah,
If I not tried, they had done it before, but well, I think maybe they were A/B testing it because it was only on for a few weeks, months. I don't know. It was a
yeah.
very short period of time. Like this orange button for downvotes and things like that. I think maybe they're trying to do like the. No, it's quite different from how Reddit one is, but I think maybe it's to maybe bring down because like if a post has lots of replies, right, then they want to also algorithmically arrange those replies in order of like relevance or likes or whatever. So maybe if a comment has a lot of downvotes, then it can, especially because like a lot of people spam replies. um Sometimes you see something completely unrelated, you see people trying to advertise stuff and all that. So let's see how it works. I mean, I hope it makes the thing cleaner and neater, but it's yet to be seen.
Yeah, what you're talking about is engagement farming, where someone posts something, goes viral, then the next most popular reply is something about cats. Like it's the most random thing. It's like this
Exactly.
is not why I'm here, but yeah, because they want those likes, they want people to say, "Oh, look, it's kind of like really cute."
And people can get paid for views now. So it's like if you
Yep,
put it under a viral post and you're getting monetized, you can just latch onto that for some random nonsense.
I do hope though that the culture is different for the better from Reddit's culture, where downvotes sometimes are just based on bitterness, right? Because I've been to some Reddit threads where someone just says something that's just completely harmless, but they get downvoted to hell because people just don't like it for some reason. It's like this person actually didn't say anything wrong. Like just say thank you or something and get downvoted. It's the weirdest thing.
It
But
happens on almost every platform where like people have the opportunity to rank things.
Mm-hmm.
People do it on Goodreads sometimes when like they'll crowd a book they don't like. Sometimes legitimately we don't like this thing. Sometimes it's just like sentimental.
Mm-hmm.
Even on IMDb, you see people like rushing a movie reviews. You see they do it on Reddit. You see even on YouTube. The unlikes. They stop putting the counter, but I think people can still see the creators can still see it in the back. So
That's interesting. Let's end on politics. It's a strange one, I know, but if Donald Trump is involved, I think it's an interesting one. So there was the assassination attempt, which is kind of sad. It was one of those things that as soon as it happened, a lot of people started saying it was fake and it was staged, and got people thinking like, wait, who did Trump offend that this dude just tried to he almost got killed, and everyone is saying this was not real. Then again, Mr. Trump has a reputation of not being the most forthcoming, and so people want to associate that with everything. But when I heard that, I was actually really shocked. I thought maybe it was gonna waved up as something that was not too serious, but it was really serious, right? It was all over the news. And somebody died, and even the shooter was taken out as well. It was crazy scenes.
man, that was shocking. And for me, when I just like saw the whole thing, I was just like, there's something out of the ordinary about this sequence of events, right? Um, so somebody gets into the perimeter, gets up on a roof, person isn't stopped, person sets up a rifle, person gets that person must be a pretty good shot. And then they say the guy was 20 years old, so this would be his first election. You know, you just grazed the guy's ear. He took multiple shots. I mean, like there's just something about the whole thing. Right now, the notion is, oh, well, they took the guy out and we don't know his intentions. We don't know where he came from. We don't know anything about him. So we just don't. So it's just a we don't know thing, a black box. But I'm pretty like there's just something about it that just feels off. I think somebody in the security apparatus needs to get fired for that to have even come through. There's something about the whole thing that like it's just not ordinary. It just doesn't seem ordinary at all, at all, at all. But I mean, it's good that he survived. One of the funny things about this his campaign trail this time around is that I'm noticing a lot of people who were a lot of people who comment on politics or whatever, whether on Twitter or even in podcasts or whatever, who like didn't like the guy are now kind of turning around and saying things like, hey, we saw his 4 years, it wasn't so bad. Hey, they're listening to him on the campaign and like, oh, it's not as bad as we thought. It's not as bad as we imagined. It's not as bad as he's been portrayed. And it seems like he's winning a lot of um, swing voters and even people who were Dems because maybe they are dissatisfied with Biden. It's funny because like me here in Nigeria, I don't tie my identity of who I am to the political party I vote for. Americans do it, and from a distance. Every time it's their election season, I always find it just weird how people will go around saying, "I am," you know, Democrat, I am Republican, I always vote. I'm like, which one is there? Tying yourself to a political party? Guy, vote for the one that makes sense and remove yourself for the next 4 years. To hell with which party? Don't be tying yourself. Well, anyway, different strokes. I guess that's how their culture is over there.
Yeah, you're right. It's a cultural thing, and it's interesting you say that because I've always, in my mind, back of my mind, I've never seen one person that's fully like 100% left or right, because no matter how left you are, there's some things that people on the quote unquote right would do that you agree with, and vice versa.
Yeah, that will make sense.
That will make sense to you. So just giving yourself labels, and I was talking about this just I think it was last week, where it's like the way this thing has now like permeated global culture to the point where even the diction of politics in Europe has changed. Now everybody says left wing, right wing, like like it's so
Yeah, yeah.
it's gone from Fox and CNN and CBS and MSNBC to all the riches of the planet. It is ridiculous, and so
Mm-hmm.
it's and that's just the power of the American media, and Trump, is he a God grazed? Someday, the whole forensics of this thing will come out. We're gonna find out what exactly what exactly happened, and hopefully we get some truths about that. He recently came out with the air band-aids and at the Republican. I didn't watch it, but this is me listening to like NPR or whatever, and they said he clearly announces who's going to be running with as vice president. And for people who don't like listen to politics often, me for example, or just follow it, the name JD Vance doesn't even make sense to you, like you never heard it before. Apparently, this is somebody who's compared Trump with Hitler in the past. He's said all kinds of negative things about Trump, and currently has the full backing of literally everyone in the Republican Party because now they have no choice, right, but to support this man. After they try their hardest to in the party to some level to not make Donald Trump their nominee, but he just steamrolled his way. Like there's
I,
nobody
I
to
don't I don't even think it's a case of him steamrolling his way. I think he's built like a cult of personality. His name has been on the mouths of Americans since
personality
yeah,
steamrolling as a steamrolling.
since, like, so even if they try to field another person, the people gone that want to vote gone, they'll be like, who is this one? Give us the one we know. Give us, they've already kind of, I don't know, the JD Vance guy is even an example of someone who didn't like him before and has now come around and is now like a stone supporter. And I think him going with a relatively young candidate is a smart move because after the debate, a lot of people were just concerned about. I mean, I've always hated the idea of gerontocracy. People over retirement age running the affairs of the country when you don't really have as much stake in the future as the younger generation coming behind you. So him choosing a younger guy, someone who is not yet 40, makes sense. From a political, from an optic standpoint. Let me put it that way. We'll see. We'll see what they do.
At this
They
rate,
should just.
I will be shocked if Donald Trump doesn't win. Like I'll be really, really perplexed to the
Yeah, a
point that
lot a lot of people have made their peace with the fact that
yeah,
even people who don't like him, people who will vote otherwise, are
yeah,
like, is that they sound like they're capitulating. They're like, it's looking like this guy's going to
yeah. It's giving Thanos. It's inevitable because
enter.
if you think about it, Mr. Biden just recently agreed to another debate in September. He's gonna get mauled. Like I feel like there's nothing he could do. Like since the last debate where he was mixing up his words, and then recently on live
I
TV,
mean, it's clear that he's not as cognitively fit. I mean, I don't think either of them will stand a chance against somebody in their 50s or 60s. But if those are the only two options you have, nah, it's not
yeah.
looking good.
Mr. Biden is just no longer there. Like he referred to Kamala as Trump. He referred to Zelensky as Putin. Like this
Well,
is in a space of like 2 days, right? Back to back to back, and it's like, yo, somebody
and
made an
another
argument. I was
another
gonna say,
issue
yeah, go
is
ahead.
yeah. Go on, go on, go on.
No, no, I was just saying, like, somebody, an argument on the Democratic side that, yeah, they get it. He might not be fit to campaign. Doesn't mean he's not fit to lead. I'm like, bro, if
Oh,
you don't have the energy to run around and do all this stuff, maybe, just maybe, you shouldn't be doing this in the first place.
that's such powder dash. Come on. I was going to say that if him being spacing out like that has also sent like a signal to the international community that it looks like weakness, right? And large chunk of international politics, it's optics. Um, so when they see the type of person that emerges as president in a country, then other countries now say, okay, so this is what we can do in relation to this country. This is what we can get away with. These are the type of bargains, deals. These are the type of things we can push. These are the type of things we can pull. So when you have it Biden, I mean, I think you have it Biden in the office, and you are seeing all these things in the glare of everybody, like him spacing out, him mumbling his words and all that, and all those type of things. It just sends a bad signal to the rest of the international community. And of course, those ones are going to push for, try to get away with whatever they can.
Agreed. Agreed entirely. And I think that's going to be a wrap today. We're gonna like sneak in like a bit of a recap of a recent trip I took to Asia. Maybe we'll put this on a different episode. Just break down,
Yep, yep.
beautiful China and some of the experiences I had there. And yeah, this has been a fun episode. We covered so much, and this is just some of the intro for what we talked about because I'm curious to see what happens with Google antitrust or whatever you know legal document they want to take to Apple, Nvidia, the rest of the people crawling their data. I'm curious to see what happens with downvotes on Twitter. And these elections, even if I run from it, like I can't escape it. Like this is the kind of thing that the U.S. elections follows you. You don't follow it, right?
Yeah,
So
it's going to be all over the news.
it's gonna be everywhere. It'll find us. And yeah, and that's a wrap. This is Backyard Conversations, and thank you for listening. You know where to find us: Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify. Yeah,
Where else? All the other podcast players.
yes, everything else. And remember to give us those 5-star reviews as always. We love them. Appreciate it. This is Backyard Conversations, and we are out.